Hey, everybody, diving into the world of multi-cloud today, and a really interesting topic right on the bleeding edge of cloud. Jared, how are you?
Doing well, Evan. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. I hope it's not too hot yet down in Texas. I know you guys are get pretty warm in the summer, but where are you now, and where's the team at DOiT based?
Yeah, well, I'm in Central Texas, New Braunfels, Texas, and believe it or not, I had to wear a jacket the other evening. We had a little bit of a cold front come through and some rain, but it was much needed, so that's good. But DOiT is an international company. We are all around the world. We've got a pretty strong population in Europe and in America, as well as Israel. An APAC team now starting a Japan team, so the
Wow.
expansion continues and going really well.
You really attached to this cloud phenomenon. So well done there. And what's your role and sort of within Do It and sort of the mission of you and your team exactly?
Yeah, so I'm the chief services officer. So I lead the client services side of the house. So we're about 185 CREs, customer reliability engineers, cloud reliability engineers scattered around the
Wow.
world. We support the sales organization, post qualification, helping customers make sure they understand challenges that they have and the expertise that we have to solve it. And then we're there for continuous engagement with our customers, which is one of a few of the different things that we bring to the market as a company. So we'll touch on that too.
Fantastic. Well, let's start with multi-cloud. It's the reality out there today, and you talk a lot about it, benefits, challenges, opportunities. What's your philosophy or perspective, let's say, on multi-cloud today in terms of not just the strategy, but the lay of the land?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably a good segue too, just to talking about kind of the broader portfolio because it's a big part of what we help customers with. A very significant portion of our customer base actually consumes more than one cloud, being typically Amazon, Google, or Azure. And it's interesting. I've been in this space for a very long time, and the promise of multi-cloud and hybrid cloud and has shifted and changed throughout the years. But what we're really seeing right now is people using the right tools for the right applications.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily that you're seeing a lot of people trying to run the same application across all these different clouds, but they might find that BigQuery is a really powerful tool for them on the Google Cloud, or a certain subset of Amazon services are very powerful for them. And same with Azure has been doing really well in the AI community lately, Microsoft in general. So one of the challenges that often creeps up in that is just managing the sprawl of it. Unit economics and understanding your cost and everything across different clouds becomes more and more challenging. All the clouds have gotten quite a bit better, I think, at providing native tools for understanding your environment and the cost of your environment. They have different strengths, different weaknesses, but when you're using those different platforms, it becomes really challenging to rationalize all that. The team I have is we support an offering at DOiT called DOiT Cloud Solve. The Cloud Solve offering, leverages these experts to help you through cost optimization exercises, your architecture, and so forth. And tons of cases where it might not even start off as that. Someone might just say, "Hey, I have a problem with this thing." They dig into it and they go, "You know what? Like, if you did this little change, it would save you a ton of money," and very happy customers. But that's kind of just the expertise piece of it. One of the other of the three pillars that DOiT brings to bear is what we call DOiT Cloud Navigator. This is a console that provides visibility that can tap into all of your clouds. And this is where you can start to see a lot of the trends, anomaly detection. It's a very FinOps oriented tool set. Brings other things to the table as well, but we've really kind of focused as that as a big challenge, a common pain point that our customers that are multi-cloud talk a lot about. And so we targeted at that. And then the third piece is just we call DOiT Cloud Advantage. And this is our procurement engine that helps people buy cloud smarter, which if some cases folks are just saying like, I just want, less invoices and to deal with, can we
Mm.
just consolidate it all with you? So between Advantage, Navigator, and Solve, it really goes to help address that multi-cloud problem. Of course, if it's single cloud, it's very valuable there too. But we really constructed around, those challenges that we've seen in the market.
Yeah, what an amazing value proposition. Well done. Well, I talk about AI and automation every day on this show, and so many different use cases and applications. But this is the first where it's helping reduce cloud computing costs. So how does that work exactly on your various applications and on your platform?
Yeah, it's everything's. I was at a conference last week speaking on the Gen AI topic. I mean, who's not? Someone said if you're not talking about Gen AI, are you even in the game right now? Like, you see these different cycles of things going. But one thing that seems really evident here is it's an easier hype cycle to go and invest in and test with. There's a lot of companies that are quickly finding opportunity to use it to improve productivity internally or get better insights in their environments that they can make better business decisions around. We're seeing a lot of folks that are going looking at their existing products and say, can I augment these products with AI to make them more valuable? And then you have some folks that are really trying to be disruptive and developing their own language models and things like that. Where we've come in with it is on multiple fronts, of course, but the Navigator solution itself is using AI to identify patterns and to help customers identify things before they even come to bear. So this is a big part, lenses and insights that you can use to understand kind of where things are going. From an expertise standpoint, one of the common use cases and demand patterns that we see right now is people just saying like, I hear it, I know it's important, I know I should be doing it. Where do I start? And so
Mm,
it's an advisory oriented workshop where you go and say, okay, let's educate you on what this is all about. Let's spend some time investigating the use cases that match your business, and then go to identify one to go tackle and help proof of concept and get to a production workload. The use cases seems to be the one that strikes me a lot because with every new technology and hype, it's people get excited and they go take the tech and say, I'm going to find somewhere to jam it into my business, and then they have varying degrees of success. So we always encourage people like, let's step back and look at your business where this
mm.
really makes sense for your business and make sure it's the right solution. Focus there.
Always a good place to start. So you must have lots of anecdotes and stories about optimizing cloud expenses. I don't know if you, without mentioning customers, clients, of course, you must have seen it all. And anything you care to share? What is a typical maybe savings or optimization look like, and what are some of the edge cases where
Yeah,
wow you're really pushing the limits of what you should be saving?
yeah. It comes in a lot of different shapes and forms. I think like the traditional cost optimization workshop and a lot of tool sets out there did things like, are you getting the most out of your resources? Are you utilizing your resources well? We've been talking about that in this industry forever now,
Mm,
but it's still rather shocking to find out how much stranded capacity people have in their organizations, zombie systems that they didn't even realize were still deployed and things like that. So that has not gone away. That is just
mhm,
table stakes, fundamental. Um, I think where it starts to get a lot more interesting is when you're supporting customers and looking in the application layer. Charges that are being made based on like you have inefficient query or API calls that shouldn't be
mm.
happening the way they are. More smarter ways to design the way that your applications interact with the cloud. Costs can surge through things like that very rapidly, and we have anecdotes where someone's just saying like my big query or something, my database isn't performant. And so it starts off as like, let's look into the performance thing. And the next thing you know, you found a way to knock off 75% of their spend because they had a bunch of redundant data or bad calls in the environment. And depending on the scale of a customer, big or small, very meaningful for their business, right? So it comes in a lot of shapes and forms. I think the FinOps conversation is definitely one that has heated up a lot and fits into this because I mentioned unit economics and passing a while ago, and it's for folks that are like less familiar with that, it's not just understanding the cost of your cloud, but how is that really tracking with the performance of your business, understanding the return that you're getting out of the cloud spend, and that's where some of the tools that we provide is kind of the next layer beyond just cost optimization type of exercises, and really helping tie your spend with the needs of your business and tying it closer to your financial teams and their ability to forecast and see margins and things like that in your business.
A fantastic insight there. You must see some of the same challenges again and again when it comes to managing multiple cloud services. Is there certain low-hanging fruit you see with almost every customer?
Um, It's an interesting question. I mean, there's a lot of different ways I could probably unpack that. A lot of the things that I just mentioned are like optimization of the resources that are utilized
Mhm.
is a low hanging fruit still that we encounter these days. But the reason why that becomes more paramount in multi-cloud deployments is it's back on that tool challenge. You might be monitoring the utilization of the resources one way on one cloud, a different way on another cloud, a different way on another cloud. It becomes hard to rationalize that. You might even have different teams with different skill sets that are monitoring these different platforms, and they have different bars for what they consider good or right or wrong. And so I think that's a big part of it is just how do you really level the playing field across the platforms and ensure there's consistency in the way that you're managing those different cloud platforms.
Yeah, well said there. And when it comes to, monitoring and optimizing cloud resources, I mean, is it always a mix of, your tools and best practices, or is it lean towards one or the other, or can you do a lot with just best practices or just tools?
I mean, it's even the way that we offer like our solution portfolio with Advantage Navigator and Solve, you don't have to take it all together. You
Mm,
could buy any one of those services independently, but we believe that the real power in that, whether you're doing something like this using a partner like DOiT or whether you're figuring out how to manage these things on your own, is how you're really pulling together that expertise, is where you're going to find a lot of the best practices in the tooling that you have. It would be hard to pick one or the other. It's like asking me which of my children I prefer more. I think it's really important to have a holistic strategy, and really, ultimately, it's about defining, spending time to define success criteria as well up front, which is a challenge for a lot of folks. With the best practices, especially in the multi-cloud, often it's a skill gap challenge, right? Especially if you're
mm.
developing strategies and you're an Amazon shop, and all of a sudden you see a great benefit to being having a Google workload or a Microsoft workload, or vice versa in any orientation. Um, to be able to go and effectively deploy that strategy without the expertise could lead to a lot of inefficiencies.
Yeah, for sure. And as you are well versed in cloud, I mean, I'm sure you follow the news every day. There's another cloud breach, cloud attack. It's just in the media all the time. Any suggested steps to take to ensure data security in the new multi-cloud world, and or best
Yeah,
practices? What's top of mind there for you and the team?
yeah, it's been a long. Before I got deep into being cloud architect and things like that earlier in my career, I was a security auditor. So this has always been a
Oh,
topic that's been of a passion of mine. But as you read a lot of those breaches, fundamentally, I think the vast, I mean, 90 something percent. I'm just making a stat up for you, but it's usually something that went wrong in the user's application, right? Like a
mm,
poor practice around how they secured their application, a poor practice in how they manage their keys. And so really it starts there. There's a shared responsibility, but what I mean by that is the cloud providers, they're securing their data centers and their own internal operations, and they have tons of regulations that they have to abide by. I would say the amount of money that they invest and the expertise they have in that probably far surpasses what most companies have access to doing, trying to secure like their own internal environments. But the responsibility that they have, at some point, they can't control you misconfiguring your application or your infrastructure, or having people that have sticky notes in a public place with an important password, or something like that. It's sad how much that actually ends up still being the root cause of things. So with that shared responsibility, I think it's understanding clearly where that demarcation is, and then understanding within your scope of responsibility, having access to the right expertise to go and really evaluate that. So not just let me check your infrastructure. This is table stakes, but like, this is services that of course we provide. Looking at your environment, doing some assessments in terms of like the configurations, vulnerabilities, and so forth. Like, you have to do that, but it's also some discussion on your operational processes. How are you
mm.
managing your keys? And just a whole array of things around how your personnel is managed, or your processes are operating. So you can't do one without the other. They're always going to find, they being adversaries, are always going to find the weakest link.
Yes, it's a continual battle there. And I'm seeing your website, you're in over 70 countries. Maybe describe the landscape around cloud globally, internationally, and what are you seeing there in particular that might be interesting?
I would say primarily it's interesting. Um, Different degrees of maturity in the different markets in terms
Mm,
of how advanced, perhaps, and there's pockets. It's a general statement, but you can kind of compare. I won't do it, but you can kind of compare certain countries or certain regions to say like, oh, that's where this country or this region was a few years ago, just based on kind of the amount of adoption that they've seen. But I think everywhere has leaders in the market that have really advanced well. In some cases, you see more platforms more heavily adopted based on the local presence of those providers, whether they have data centers in the countries or within good latency and solutions and so forth. So different factors like that. You also start to see really interesting things in terms of data center deployments. You have a lot of companies that care a lot about the carbon footprint. And the more
mm.
modern data centers that are deployed in different regions typically have more modern solutions for how green they are and so forth. And so that even drives buying decisions for some people even out of their own country because maybe they don't care about latency or something like that. They care a lot about their carbon footprint. And so they might choose a newer data center that has greener specs. And so lots of different interesting factors there. Outside of that, I'd be remiss not to mention just different regulatory requirements. Some countries far greater control regulatory requirements around the way they manage their data and so forth. So you certainly run into different aspects of things like that, which it makes it benefit if you have a partner that has resources and experts that are actually in all those different countries. The chances are they're going to be a little bit more intimately familiar with those kinds of things.
Yeah, I see you actually have a compliance practice, and you've got all these different standards around the world. So you can actually do audits and help with compliance on a per country basis. It looks like.
From an advisory standpoint, we're
Hmm.
not formal auditors or anything along those lines, but
Okay,
best practices and understanding kind of the requirements in different countries is an expertise, something that we're very very good at. And then if someone needs a formal kind of third party attestations and things like that, we have partners that we can line them up with.
fantastic. And clearly, you have a lot of success with customers. They seem to love you. How do the cloud providers, the hyperscalers, view your work? I mean, it's an opportunity and a threat. Are they partners of yours, or do you sort of just try to be Switzerland in that
Super
regard?
strategic, super strategic.
Yeah. Oh,
We share leads and we share our success.
oh, well, well
The
done.
number one thing that our strategic partners care about is that we're helping our customers grow,
Hmm.
uh, and that's obviously important to us, and it's important to our customers. As long as everybody's growing and everything's healthy and optimized, like it's a good outcome for everybody. The part of our DNA that the partners really appreciate is the way that we operate with our customers and our model is really helping educate them, help them become
Hmm.
more self proficient. Our more tenured customers tend to rely on our support less than our brand new customers because over time we're helping them learn. So the DNA is every time we take a request or a project or a ticket, whatever you want to define it as, we want to leave the customer in a position where maybe they don't have to submit the same request again because now they've developed some skill to go and do it on their own. That's something that's always been part of how Do It wanted to operate with customers, not trying to leave it where we don't transfer the knowledge because we want them to come back and ask for more and more help. I called it out
Mm.
earlier that it's an unlimited amount of access that you have to the support team. So once you procure something like Do It Cloud Solve, have a subscription with that, there's no limit on the number of questions that you can ask or projects that you might ask for help with. It's truly unlimited. So it's in our best interest to help those customers learn so that the model remains very scalable.
Fantastic. Well, it's very exciting, very intriguing proposition you have. What are you personally, just what are you looking forward to the next few weeks or months? Do you have any travel or trips or events coming
Oh
up
yeah,
worth mentioning?
lots of travel. We participate at all the major partner events and things like that. I get to do a lot of international travel since I have a global team, so lots on that front. But I would say what really excites me is just some of the trends.
Mm,
What's going on with Gen AI is super exciting, and right now, I think a big focus of ours with our customers is helping kind of helping them kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of cut through like what's the hype and what's real for me. Like that's a big important thing for customers right now. And there's just so many exciting use cases. We even use it ourselves internally to help us be
Mm.
more productive and so forth. So there's a lot of excitement around that. And I just think ultimately the model that we have is aligned really well with the market. Um, I've worked at several different premier partners over my career, leading pro serve organizations and support organizations. And there was a time when the value proposition was like, you can't get a cloud expert. You can't even get a low level cloud engineer. You have to have us. And now in the
Mm.
market, there's generally like we've entered a more mature point in the market. It's still true in some places, but a lot of companies, the CTOs, the CIOs have a pretty good bearing on some at least general cloud strategy. They probably have some engineers that have at least some general proficiency and have operated in the cloud. So the narrative's been changing, and our model is really to provide like that principal architect, lead architect type function to help go advise those customers and steer them through their journey. And I think that had this model, a long time ago, it would have been more challenging, but right now the market's ready for it. It fits really well. So I'm just excited about the future and continue to help our customers grow and watch the business be successful as well as our partners.
Oh, you couldn't ask for more. Congratulations on all the success. It's nice being at the right place and the right time through all that hard work. And thanks for joining, sharing a bit of insight. I'm sure we will bump into each other at one of the many GCP or reInvent events that are around. And congrats on all the good work.
Well, thanks again for having me. Always enjoy talking shop and talking about the cloud computing industry. So anytime.
Fantastic. And thanks everyone for watching. Reach out to DOiT. Their website's really well done, and there's tremendous amount of resources and education there as well, which always helps.